Okay.
Okay, good morning, everybody. I muted you all. Hi, and the minute you want to talk, no problem. Unmute and talk. We are in Parashat Truma. One of the interesting things when we start a Parasha, by the way, this Parashat Truma is only a beginning of a whole series of Parashiot that are talking about the Mishkan and all the details and the details of the details, and so many details that one of the biggest questions is why? Why are we talking so much about all those details about something, by the way, that is not going to be in the future? The Mishkan was something that was built in the desert, and that was its place. And then we had the first temple and the second temple. And here we're talking about the Mishkan with so many details, which is not even the temple, which we could understand that the temple is the idea of really the forever. So then we have to talk about the details of the temple and not about the Mishkan. Okay, some people will say, yeah, but it's the same details. But it's not exactly true, because there are things that were in the temple and we didn't have them in the Mishkan at the desert. And versatility also the opposite way. So what is the idea behind all those details? So first of all, we have to understand it's all written in the words ve'asuli mikdash ve'shachanti betocha. You will make me a temple and I will dwell among you. And as we always say, that mikdash is singular, so it should be in singular. Ve'asuli mikdash ve'shachanti betocho, but it's not written ve'shachanti betocho inside it and inside you in plural. Betocham, which of course we all know the explanation, that the idea is that we are really supposed to build our own shrine, our own Mishkan, our own temple inside us, so God can come and dwell among us, inside us, in each one of us, and that's the idea of the temple. And that's why it's called Mishkan. Mishkan in Hebrew is a place where you shochen, where you live. Mishkan. Also, by the way, Shechinah is from the same letters. In other words, the Mikdash that we are going to build is really a Mishkan for the Shechinah. In other words, there is no difference between a Mikdash and a Mishkan, but there is an interesting difference. When we're talking about the Mikdash, the temple, we're talking about something that stands in one place. When we talk about the Mishkan, we are talking about something that moves, because it was moving with Am Yisrael in the desert. And that's an interesting point, because what God is really telling us in the beginning, he is telling us in Pasuk Tet, Kechol asher ani mar'eh otcha, like everything I'm showing you, at Tavnit HaMishkan, the building of the Mishkan, the way it looks, the sketch of the Mishkan, the etavnit kol kolav, and the sketch and the way all the details, all the vessels and everything. V'chen tasu, so should you do. But what's the meaning v'chen tasu? And so should you do? What do you mean? You are telling us kechol asher tasu, do it. What is and so v'chen tasu? And so should you do? And one of the beautiful explanation is that the Torah is not talking about the building. It's talking about us. It says, look at the way the Mishkan is built. And from this, you will learn how to behave. V'chem ta'asu. And so will you do. You're on to build this shrine inside us. That's our job. There is no meaning to the outside. The special meaning is the inside. In other words, you can build a beautiful building, but if inside there is nothing, it's worse now. So how do I build this building? So that's why we have all those details. And when we look at all those details, for example, talking about outside and inside, one of the interesting things is that when we have all the planks that are building the Mishkan standing, and you had wooden pole that were holding it from the outside, and then there was one pole, Habariach HaTichon, and he was going through the whole walls, the three walls of the Mishkan, and by miracle it was bending in the corner, and it was inside, which is also very interesting. What's the idea? You don't see it from the outside. And why is it bending? There's one pole was going through the whole thing. All the other poles were divided because it's impossible to a pole that will bend. A pole goes straight. But here was a special miracle. And you didn't see it. You didn't see the miracle. And you didn't see the pole because it was inside. It was like you had the planks, and you had outside was the poles, and then inside this was a hole, and it was going through the whole Mishkan. Unbelievable. What's the idea? Again, as we said, we have to understand that the main basic things, what is holding everything, is this pole inside, is the inside which holds the outside. Without this pole, all those big planks wouldn't stand. They will fall. In other words, if the inside is not holding the outside, there is no meaning to the outside. It's not going to hold. And that's one of the biggest lessons of the understanding the idea of the Mishkan. Where is the Torah? Inside. You had this, let's say the Aron HaEdut, where the Torah was inside, and you didn't see the Torah, it was inside the box. You couldn't see it. And the box itself was built from three different boxes, two gold ones and one wooden one. This is also a lesson. There's so many lessons to understand that this is the way we should build ourselves in order to be a Mishkan for the Shechinah. But the basic thing is the inside. And it reminds me a story I think I told you. I was sitting on the seashore and I was seeing two kids playing in the sand, building castles, trying to build, because they were trying to build with the sand itself. And you know, the sand doesn't stand. Till one kid understood one way, and he brought water and he spilled the water on the sand. And then when the sand was wet with the water, they built this beautiful castle in the sand on the beach. Wow. And I looked at it and I said, wow, look at it. If I take the sand by itself, without the water inside, I cannot do anything. Now, when I put the water inside, do I see it from the outside? No. But what is holding the sand? The water inside. And the water by itself, also you cannot do anything. And that's exactly the idea of the human being. Neshama from up there that goes inside and holds everything. And the body, which is the outside. And the outside without the inside, and the inside without the outside doesn't work. But the main thing is the inside. And what is water? Torah. Unbelievable. You know, like to sit on the beach and see this thing and understand that God is talking to us through everything around us. And all those details, that's what makes us understand. And I was looking, wow. From the outside, you see this beautiful castle built from sand. But you know that if it's only sand, it cannot hold. What is holding this castle from sand is the water inside. In other words, what holds us here in this world is the neshama, is the Torah inside us. Without the Torah inside us, we've got nothing. It's not going to hold. And this is one of the basic things of the Mishkan. Then, what is this Mishkan all about? So we see that mostly it's being taught like in singular. Ve'asita, 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 you shall do, you shall do, you shall, you, by singular. Only two things are being said in plural. Ve'asuli Mishkan, that's the tabernacle itself. And what do you think else? Aron HaBrit. The shrine where you put the Luchot HaBrit, when you put the Torah in, is called Ve'asuli Aron. Ve'asu Aron. Why? The Torah wants to show us. We have the temple. We have the world. In order to understand the world, in order to understand the idea of the temple, we have to go into details. And each one of us has to give his share in this understanding and in this doing. To build a shrine, everybody has to do his part. In other words, each one of us got a different talent, a different quality that we have to use to put them all together to build this tabernacle, to build this temple. That's why everything is written in singular, and only the basic of all is telling us, you have to understand, you use your talent not for yourself. You use the talent for the community. You use the talent for everybody in order to build this beautiful Mishkan. Details and more details. But we see, for example, we're talking about where they put the Torah in the shrine. And this Arona Kodesh, this Arona Edut, it was built from 3 boxes. The outside box was gold, the inside box was gold, and the middle box was wood. Why? What's the idea behind it? And by the way, you covered it on top, so what you saw from the outside was only the gold. Again, the same story, outside and inside. Outside is gold, the inside is wood. Wood is something that grows. And the Torah wants to tell us, when you're talking about Torah, you cannot stand on one place. You have to move all the time. Because if you don't move, you're not alive. If you're not like a wood, like a plant that grows, doesn't mean anything. Even if you shine like gold, gold doesn't change. It stays the same. But wood changes. And this is, again, a big lesson. By the way, it's also so in normal life. In business, for example, if you stand on one place, what happens to you? You go down. You finish your business. In business, you have to move on all the time. And that's the same way in life, in everything. And especially when we're talking about the Torah, you have to move. And a more important lesson is, Talmid Chacham that learns Torah is got his goal. But sometimes a Talmid Chacham, he has the gold inside, and he tells to him, I have to be humble. So I don't want to show, I don't want to brag and show off and show everybody that I know the Torah. So the Torah tells him, you should show off. Everybody has to see the gold from the outside, what you've got inside. But in the middle, there is a wood to be humble. You know things. You have qualities. You have abilities. You don't say, I don't use them because I'm humble. This is not humble. This is stupid. You have to use them because God gave it to you. But you use them for the benefit of everybody, of the community. And when you use it, you still say humble. You stay humble, no problem. Moshe Rabbeinu was the greatest guy, but he was the most humble guy. Look, there was nobody like him. And he is telling us, what is being humble? Being humble is to understand that everything I've got is from God. And whatever God gave me, it's me as long as God let it be mine. Because God can take it. You know, I always remember this story. There was this famous, really famous doctor in Petah Tikva. He was well known worldwide. He was a psychiatrist or something. I don't remember exactly. And you know, I was visiting, I think one of my grandparents in one of the places, and I saw this guy. He looked at me. I think I know who he is. I asked him, who is this? He says, this is this Dr. Watson. Why? I says, what? He was sitting there, staring the wall, like nothing. Where went all his wisdom? Where went all his cleverness? Like a plant. In other words, God gives and God takes. If we know this is being humble. Yes, I use what I've got for the benefit of everything, understanding that it's not mine, it's God giving it to me, and God wants me to use it. So don't get arrogant. Don't get pride into yourself. You be proud to be a servant of God. And you can see it when you come to the Gdolim of Am Yisrael. And you know, sometimes you see, I never forget that once I've been at Reb Chaim Kanievsky, and there was this kid, little kid, asking Reb Chaim Kanievsky a question about what he was learning in class. He pointed to Reb Chaim Kanievsky, a kid asking a question of a kid, like a little kid. And you know what? He answered it in such a nice way. And as I said, this is Gedula. This is Gedula. This is greatness. This is the way to behave. Talking about details, I must tell you another story. You know, I sell orthopedic chairs or ergonomic in the, let's say, the professional meaning. A few years ago, I get a customer phoning me, and he tells me, you know, I have a problem. I've got severe backaches. I bought this chair from you 10 years ago, and it's getting worse. And I've been now at the doctor, and the doctor told me that it must be the chair, and I need a chair. So I said, after 10 years, you're phoning me and telling me that you have a problem with the chair? Why didn't you phone me before? Says, no, I didn't want to bother you. I was ashamed. So why do you phone me now? What, after 10 years now, suddenly you're not ashamed anymore? No, because the doctor told me that I need specific things in a chair, and I'm asking, maybe you've got something like this. I couldn't believe this. No, it's impossible. This chair we were talking about, it's got so many functions, and it's so good. Now, everybody is like sending me letters how good the chair is. So normally, the problem are the way you adjust the chair, because the chair's got a lot of adjustment in order to make it adjustable or adjust itself to the guy who's sitting on it. So I'm asking you, did you move the seat? Did you change the angle of the back? Did you put it in the right position? Did you do? And from what I'm hearing from the guy, I understand that doesn't know what I'm talking about. So I ask him, I want to ask you a question. Do you know that you have a mechanism on the chair? He says, yes, yes. He says, do you know that there are functions? I don't know. I got the chair, I sat on it, and that's it. So I was thinking to myself, this guy got the chair, he sat on it, and who knows if it was, and maybe the chair was really adjusted in the worst way that could. And he didn't change anything. So this guy is 10 years sitting on a chair, ruining his back, not knowing that he can change the picture. So I asked him, please sit on the chair. Take your hand underneath, there is a level. You do this, you do that. And then slowly but surely, I explained to him how to move the parts of the chairs and adjust them. Suddenly I said, wow, oh, so good. I feel it in my back. In other words, another big lesson, the details. You can get the thing, but if you don't know the details, if you don't know how it functions, you can do, instead of doing good to yourself, you do the worst things. So in other words, in order to build a Mishkan, in order to build a shrine, in order to build a temple to the Kodesh Baruch Hu, we have to know the details, how to do it, how does it function, how to adjust it to our abilities. How do we do it? How do we move things? Unbelievable. So now we understand how important it is, all those details. And we look in the beginning of the parsha. וידבר השם אל משה לאמור, דבר אל בני ישראל ויקחו לי תרומה, מאת כל איש אשר ידבנו ליבו תיקחו את תרומתי. Another interesting thing that in a minute we'll understand how it connects to what we talk. First of all, it's very strange. You should take me a donation, a truma. You should give me. What should you take? Willingly, from your heart. This is giving, not taking. I'm taking. What's going on here? So, of course, one of the simple explanation is we owe nothing. Everything is from God. In other words, we're not really giving. We are taking. Even if we give to God, we're really taking because it's everything is for our own benefit. Beautiful. But there is another explanation. Says the Ochaim HaKadosh, the Rambam, halachically says, there are certain mitzvahs that are on the individual. Mezuzah, tzitzit, kosher, milky, meaty. Those mitzvahs, everybody is obliged to do them. You have to do them. But there are certain mitzvahs that are mitzvahs of the public. In other words, if you by yourself, you cannot do them. And one of those mitzvahs is the Mishkan, the temple. You cannot build the Mishkan, the temple, from private money, from private donations. Only when it comes from the general, from the public, from the klal, from everybody. So how do you do it? So that's what the Torah is telling. Daber et bnei Israel. You should show to the children of Israel. They should take truma. Who should take? The Gaboim. You send people. They will take the truma. From whom? From those that are giving willingly from all the heart as much as they want. From them you will take the truma. In other words, you take the truma only from those who want to give it. Those who don't want to give it, you don't take the truma. It's not worth. We don't need those truma. By the way, everybody gave, and everybody gave willingly. And now, this is explaining this beautiful explanation. Again, every individual has something that he has to take and give to the public, to the congregation, to the society. And then when it's in the general place, then with this money, with those facilities, with the gold and the copper and the silver and all the other things, when they are now in a common kuppah, in a common box, in a common truma, they belong to everybody. Now, from this, you build the Mishkan, not from the individual, but from the klal, from everybody. Again, the power of the klal. This is the idea of the Mishkan. Because in order to build the Mishkan inside us, we first of all have to understand that we are a part of this beautiful nation, Am Yisrael. And as we are a part of it, we have to participate. And each one of us has to give whatever we can to the others. You should love thy neighbors. You should love your friends. And this is the way that you build a temple. ושכנתי בתוכם. ועשו לי מקדש ושכנתי בתוכם. You will build me a temple like this, a base mikdash like this, a tabernacle. Then I can dwell among you. And by the way, saying among you is not only inside us, but among us, with everybody. So in other words, beautiful view of the Parsha, of understanding all those ideas about building this shrine, building this Mishkan inside us. And another interesting point, and with this we'll finish the lesson of today. When somebody comes to shiur or to wherever and he asks for a donation, what will he do first? First of all, he will say, "Hi, I am this and this. I'm building this beautiful synagogue. I'm building this beautiful yeshiva. I'm doing this big charity. Please donate whatever you can, gold, silver, copper, whatever." This is normal. But imagine to yourself, somebody comes, "I want you to give me gold, silver, everything you've got." Who is going to give? 1 minute. What for? What for? First of all, tell us what you want it for. First of all, you tell us, give, give, give. What do you mean? Why should I give you? And look what's written here. וידבר השם אל משה לאמור, דבר אל בני ישראל ויקחו לי תרומה, מאת כל איש אשר יתבן ללבו תיקחו תרומתי, וזאת התרומה, and this is the donation you will take, the תרומה, gold, silver, copper, תכלת, ארגמן, תולעת שני, שש ועיזים, and skins, and רות חשים, and oil של המאור for lighting, and בסמים, and etc., and precious stones of Miluim, and only at the end, ועשו לי מקדש ושכנתי בתוכם. Why? Why is the Torah, first of all, is asking us to give, and only then explains to us what for? This connects us to what was written in last Parsha and the Parsha before. When the Kodesh Baruch Hu sent Moses, Moshe Rabbeinu, to ask Am Yisrael if they want to receive the Torah, they said, of course, Naaseh, we will do. Then in the last Parsha, they again, twice it's written. The first time, Naaseh, we will do, with no questions. And the second time, Naaseh v'nishma, we will do, and then hear. And that's exactly connecting us to the same thing here. Am Yisrael are at this high level of trusting God, believing in God, that they don't really care why God wants the gold and the silver and the copper. They're going to do it anyway. Then God tells them why. Because here you have to understand to use the things in the right way, in the right thing, and understanding why you're doing it in order to know how to build it. But first, give me gold and silver and this. And Am Israel, I've got no problems because the Torah wants to tell us again this greatness of Am Israel, that we're willing, they are willing to do whatever it takes, give everything they've got, not even knowing what for, because God asked us to. And then, when you realize this, now, if you act like this, then now you can build me a temple, build me a Beis Hamikdash, build me the tabernacle. Now you can do it, and I will dwell among you. Beautiful. Of course, there are a lot of other interesting things in the Parsha, like the measurements. We have measurements that we learn. Like for example, when we're talking about Aron HaEdut, the measurements are not whole. If we're talking about the Shulchan, the table, the part are whole, part are not whole. If we're talking about the altar, all the measurements are whole. And we learn a lot of lessons, but we haven't got the time now to talk about it. We talked about it in the past. Maybe we'll have the opportunity in the next parsha to talk also about the measurements of what we learn. But it's very interesting. We're not only learning from the measurements, but we're also learning from the lack of measurements. Because there is one thing that's got no measurements, and it's written in so many details. But the details that we see through the whole parsha, so many measurements, but in this particular part, no measurements. And what are we talking about? Ve'asita menorat zahav ta'or, the menorah. And when you look through it, you will find out that you cannot find one measurement of the menorah. Now you see the beautiful thing. So what do we learn? We learn the menorah is the symbol of the light of the Torah. Does the Torah has measurements? No. So also here, from not having measurements, the Torah is telling us that the light of the Torah is unlimited. It's forever. You cannot measure it because there is always more and more. And I really would like to bless us all to get this power of the Torah, this unlimited power that we can achieve when we build the tabernacle inside us, when we build the temple inside us. And how do we do it? When each one of us gives his part to share with the others, to support the others, to love the others. This is the way we build the Mishkan. When we do this, so we learned our lesson from this corona that came on us, and the corona will vanish like it hasn't been here at all. Be'ezrat Hashem, b'mira b'yameinu. All the best. Have a nice morning.